Welcome. Welcome in Science and Magic. So happy that you are here. My name is Amanda Helen, and I love talking about all things nervous system care and working deliciously and even feminine energy. This video is going to be talking about why the presence of stress, why being stressed out creates more of a masculine embodiment, and also offer things that you can do about it. Many people who follow me are self-identified high achievers. They tend to be type A individuals who really like to strive and work towards their goals, and they're really, really good at getting their goals accomplished, for sure. But their lives tend to hold a lot of stress. And we're going to talk a bit about what that stress is and why it creates masculine energy. And then, like I said, I'll give you some tools to work with it. So, I have a bachelor's of science in neuroscience. That's why I love talking about the nervous system. And I figured out pretty quickly that my role in the field of science was not to conduct the studies. I have a deep respect for the scientific method, but I get really bored in the lab. I prefer to work with the nervous system with my full and my whole body. So I went on to become a healing practitioner. I went to the Dr. Ida Rolf Institute and learned about the nervous system by working with my hands and through connective tissue. I also mentored with a somatic experience practitioner. I'm not trained in that modality, but I have a lot of insight from that mentorship. And I completed 3 modules in biodynamic craniosacral therapy, which was a really in-depth study. I mean, I don't even immersion. I would say immersion with the nervous system. So when I'm talking about stress and the nervous system, it comes from all of these angles. Yes, I have book knowledge about it, but I also have a lot of experience working with the nervous system of other people and my own nervous system. I have had quite a bit of trauma in my childhood. I started talking about it in my last video and have worked through a lot of that as an adult. And so I think the best way that you can embody or teach the concepts is through the embodiment of them. I'm also a recovered workaholic. I grew up with a single mother, and she just worked herself to the bone, like 3 jobs. She had to hold masculine presence to provide and protect for our family. So I didn't have a lot of modeling around feminine energy. So I have developed that over the years through my understanding of the nervous system, through soothing my own, and through the embodiment of it. And then once I started understanding feminine energy, I was like, oh, this makes sense. Feminine energy is about relaxing, receiving, yielding. It's about softening, and so that life can grow and flourish. And we can't do that unless we feel safe. So welcome in. Feel free to say hi in the chat, say where you're tuning in from, and feel free to ask questions as I share. So what is stress? Stress happens. It's a biological mechanism that occurs in the body. It's a cascade of hormones and physiological responses that occurs because the body thinks there's a threat in the environment. And we have evolved throughout evolution to have this response. And it's mostly adaptive, not in our current modern day society, but let's say that there's something that's life-threatening in our environment. The stress response is designed to unleash massive amounts of energy, activate that energy, and get us moving, get us to fight that threat, to flee. Also, freezing, playing dead is a response as well. And the problem is that our stress response has developed over all of these years, and our current modern day civilization hasn't been around for very many years in comparison with the lifespan of humanity in general. So, what was stress to our ancestors is very different to what stresses us out now. This mismatch is really where there's a discrepancy. But I like to say that stress is not bad. Like, I feel like stress has this evil reputation, like chronic stress bad. But what if we rework our perspective and say stress is actually amazing? Like the stress response, the fact that in the blink of an eye, we're given this wild, amazing, superhuman powers in our bodies so that we can meet a threat. We don't even have to think about it. Like that's a really cool thing that the body does. So let's talk about some things that stress causes in the body. So first of all, it causes a tension in our muscles because if there was a threat in our environment, what would be the adaptive response? Muscles would activate. So we would become strong, agile. We would become ready to pounce, to move, to run, to fight, to swing, our fists, to kick. And so all of this blood and energy rushes to our muscles and specifically our limbs. It flows away from the digestive system into the limbs. Anything that doesn't need to be utilized to meet a physiological threat um, is kind of given the back burner when there's a threat at hand. And if you think about masculine energy is very strong, it's very agile, it's very, um, not that feminine energy isn't strong, it's a different kind of strong. Masculine energy is more of a front forward strong. It is presenting strong. It is ready to meet a challenge. It is ready to fight. It is ready to flee. It is ready to persevere, to push through. And the stress response gives us that ability. Whereas feminine energy has this sit back, rest, yield, soften. Okay, so if all the blood's rushing to the muscles and the muscles start to tone up, they start to clench. That's the opposite of soft. And over time, if we are chronically stressed, which is another issue in our society, when we become chronically stressed, when our stress response is activated so often by these little stressors, by an agitating email, by the thought of giving a presentation, by someone leaving a comment on our social media that feels threatening to us. Like all these little stressors are still creating the same biological cascade effect in our body as if there was like a bear in our presence. So there's the mismatch. And because of that, we're being chronically stressed. So what happens is the jaw starts to tense up chronically. So I start to tense the jaw, shoulders come up to the ears, fists kind of start to clench, and the hips start to clench. So everything pulls kind of in and up. And the muscles get this tone that's defined, and that's beautiful. But it's masculine. It's more of a masculine presence in the body. So that is the first way that the presence of stress creates more of a masculine presence or masculine tone. The second is that it creates this like ready to go, ready to pounce stance and presence. If you think of a feminine presence, there's a watery movement, there's a flow, the hips flow side to side, there's a yielding down, the shoulders go back and forth. There's a lot of spirals in the body. Think of how water spirals in nature. And masculine energy is more linear. It's more, you're standing at equal 2 feet. Your shoulders are very equal, like everything is linear. Feminine energy, you rest in a hip. You soften the shoulder down, right? But stress, it causes you to be ready to pounce. So you're very linear, you're equal stance, ready to move forward and ready to, yeah, I guess like it's that focus, it's that agility or that hypervigilance to something rather than resting, whereas feminine energy has that resting quality, the flow, the spiral. Stress also speeds everything up because why would you slow down if there was a stressor around you? So the brain starts to increase in thought. because you're being hyper vigilant to your surroundings. So you begin to look at your surroundings and register everything. You become hyper vigilant. You're focused. So you're not looking at a wide perspective. You're really focused in at one particular thing at a time. And the brain is firing in really fragmented patterns, but it's really fast. So a lot of times when someone who, like a high achiever, is who's stressed out, they will they'll often have a hard time sitting still because they're like, okay, well, I can't stop my thoughts. My thoughts are going a million miles per minute. Well, yeah, because your stress response is on. Why would you sit down in meditation if you're being chased by a bear? So you start to speed up everything. You start to move faster and you start to speak faster and think faster. And like everything becomes fast and forward, whereas feminine energy moves slow. Feminine energy floats. Feminine energy is graceful. It's almost like walking on a cloud because there is no time. Masculine energy is in linear time. Feminine energy is in a timeless state. It's a state of beingness. There's no urgency towards anything because everything comes to the feminine. And so if you're starting to speed up and you're starting to move really fast and grab and your movements are really jagged and you can't even get from A to B quick enough because you're just rushing, rushing, rushing. You're passing by people in your workspace, you're bumping into things, you're grabbing something, you're slamming into things. This would be maybe because your stress response is active. So to slow down is to feel safe. The next thing is that you get stuck in your head. And this is a really, really big one because masculine energy lives in the head and feminine energy resides in the heart and the whole body. So masculine energy is this kind of pulling from the mental sphere, the atmosphere, and feminine energy is earth. And because of that hypervigilance in the mind, when you're stressed, your masculine energy starts to come forth and try to solve problems, try to meet threats, try to fix things, solve things, get the body out of the physical space, strategize, plan. All these things are very, very heady. And many, many people who often, even identify as feminine essence beings get stuck in the head because we live in a very head-centered society. You begin into strategizing mode versus flow. And why would we flow if there was a bear chasing us, right? Like that wouldn't make any sense to just, oh, I'm just going to flow down this path and trust that whatever happens, happens. No, you strategize. Where is a tree I can climb up? Where's a corner? How can I lose this bear? Do I need to turn around and fight or do I need, you start to ask these questions. So these are all ways where stress kind of shows up in the body as a masculine presence. And the question here becomes, okay, so then what do I do to lower stress? I work with many people, and some people, they want to unleash their feminine energy. Some just want to lower their stress because. But whenever you soften out of a state of being stressed, you are, in fact, bringing in the whole body. You're soothing yourself, and you are stepping into a more feminine state of being. This feels better to someone who identifies as feminine essence than it would to someone who identifies as masculine essence, who might feel more at home in that problem solving, meeting challenges, strategizing mode. That might feel more at home. That might be invigorating to the system. They still need rest. That's still important. There still needs to be space for parasympathetic rest and digest activation. But being in that sympathetic state, it uses a lot of energy. And so depending on how your body is, that might create burnout over time. And when we're using all that energy towards meeting threats in our environment, towards activating our muscle tone, towards brain power, it comes away from regeneration of our body, like that deep replenishing energy of like growing hair and sparkling eyes and glowing skin and all this stuff. So we want to shift into more of a relaxed state out of survival mode in order to amplify feminine energy. Please give this video a like if you are watching live or if you're tuning in after the replay. That helps my channel so much, and it's something so easy that you can do. I want to say before I go into some ways that you can shift out of stress and feel more feminine, I do have a course called Nervous System of a Goddess. I'm so excited about it. And really, what it is, it's a program that contains, as of now, it will have 4 courses. The first course is called Soften, Level 1 Soften. And it goes into the branches of the nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic. And it also offers you, aside from that education, ways for you to interact with and get to know your nervous system. I work with scientists who understand the nervous system. Like some of my clients are scientists, but I remind them, like, you have a nervous system. It's not just this diagram on this sheet of paper that's outside of the body. It's within you. So how is your nervous system interacting with your environment? And this course is really about that. I really encourage students to not just take in the information, but to show up to the practices. There's yoga practices, there's meditation, there's reflection. I invite them to take it slowly, to not just binge the information and check off the to-do list of the course, but to take their time and to really relish in the embodiments, because they are designed to tip your body over to a state of rest and digest. And that happens over time. It takes some time. If you want to register for that course, I will include the link in the show notes as well as in the comments below. But I would love to have you in there. Level 2 is called Glow, and they're designed to be taken sequentially. Level 3 will be receive, and level 4 will be surrender. But for right now, I have levels 1 and 2 available for purchase. Levels 3 and 4 will be recorded live in the new year. So step 1, how do we do this? How do we shift out of a state of chronic stress? And this is what I work with my clients on. So if you want some private coaching support, I do offer that as well, if this is something you feel like you need someone to work with you on. Step 1 is shifting your baseline out of a chronic state of fight or flight. Okay, easier said than done, right? This could look like a lot of different things, but I will say it involves the whole body. So here's some things I do with my clients. First, I have them, for a period of a week or two, just start to take a note on everything that stresses them out. So if they get triggered, so actually, let me rewind. First of all, we work on, what are my signs of stress? Like, when do I know that stress is present? So they start to say, maybe, okay, my chest tightens. I feel my limbs start to really engage, or I feel my brow start to furrow, my breath shorten. So if you're tuning in live, share with me how you know that stress is present in your system. Like, what signs does your body give you to let you know that you are activated? And then once you get to know your signs of stress, when it happens throughout your daily life, you can say, okay, interesting, stress is here. And you start to have a bit of a separation from it. And then you start to notice what's triggering those stressors. It could be a lot of things, right? So what are some examples? It could be, okay, I get really stressed driving in traffic in the morning. I notice that the rush of cars around me really stresses me out. Or I get really stressed out when I open my inbox in the morning and it's super full of emails. Or I get really stressed out when, every time I look at this bug on my windshield that I don't clean off and I keep forgetting to clean it off. So it could be really big things. It could be really small things. It could be repetitive things, but you just want to lay them all out. And then we start to categorize them. So there's some stressors that are external, they're outside of us. And I think all the examples I just gave would be external stressors and pretty low level stressors too. And then there's stressors that are internal. It's what we tell ourselves, it's the things that we're saying. And I find that these are actually really, really common with my clients. So it could be, I'm not good enough if I don't do this, or I look in the mirror and I see this flaw, or um, limiting beliefs of all kinds, like I won't have enough money to blank. So you start to notice your thoughts, and this would be internal stressors. Notice what you're telling yourself, what the script is inside your mind, because you know what? That creates the same biological cascade of hormones as an actual life-threatening problem around you, which is just so interesting. Like you could have an argument with a loved one, and in the heat of that argument, you have a biological cascade of hormones that causes the stress response. And then you leave that argument and you go home and you think about it and you ruminate over it. And then you're still producing those same hormones in the body as if you were there in real person. So if this isn't motivation for you to kind of explore your thoughts and to work with your thoughts and to create consciousness around them, I don't know what could be, because it's having a biological effect on your body. So these would be internal stressors. Next would be things that are, it's called eustress. So things that are stressors that are actually good for your evolution. They're good for your growth. And like I said, stress isn't bad. Stress helps us grow. We go to the gym, we lift weights, we stress our muscles, we grow our muscles. We push ourselves to learn something new. We stress our brain. We build new neural pathways. We get a new brain. We grow. We have new perspective, new outlook on life. So things like eustress would be, big things like getting married, like studying for an exam for school, right? It could be, what would another like positive life stressor? Having a baby. I just had a baby. So things that are stressors outside of you, but that push you in a way that's like positive in general. And there can be crossover between these, because you could very much be studying for an exam, which is eustress, and then be telling yourself that you're dumb, which is the distress internal. So it's like there can be crossover, but you want to start just building consciousness around the things that stress you out. And then the other category is habitual stress. So these are things that you do that are habits over and over and over again that cause stress, that you just, it's repetitive and you keep doing them and they just continue to cause you stress. So procrastinating is a big one for people, or perfectionism, maybe like always needing things to be perfect before you complete them or finish them. So after you start to list all these out, you can start to categorize them and just gain awareness. As you gain awareness, you're going to gain consciousness around what stresses you out. And then I always say the things that you can eliminate, eliminate. So that bug on the windshield, wipe it off. So as you're looking at your stressors, the things that you can take out of your life, do it. Just eliminate it. If there is a friendship that has run its course and it's stressing you out, just take a step back from it, however you need to do it, whether you need to have a conversation, whether you need to just make yourself distant. Um, and or like your room. A lot of times with my clients, their room stress them out because they're so messy. And I say, take a day and just deep clean your room, and it will feel so good. Create a sanctuary. And they do. And it feels better because it's not a stressor that they're coming home to every single day that they're sleeping in. And then after that, the things that you can't change, see if you can change your perspective around something. So there are some relationships in our lives that might stress us out, maybe close family. Okay, do you have certain boundaries around how often you see them? And then can you create more consciousness when you're with them? So notice when you're triggered, And there's different techniques for all of this, and I work with my clients on this, but be in your heart, feel your feet on the ground, calm your body. So the things that you can't change, can you bring a new you to those things? Can you shift? If work stresses you out, like, can you, and we're going to get into this next step, can you do a breathing exercise when you first sit down on your desk before you open your inbox? The point here is to not let the stressors run your experience and to really have some degree of consciousness and create a game plan around how to be with them and how to maneuver around them. And obviously, the internal thoughts. I mean, this is a big thing where I think hiring a coach or working through some sort of course that addresses limiting beliefs or working with a therapist, having some alternative perspective to help you rewire your thought patterns and your belief systems to be more supportive of where you want to go versus pulling you down and creating a stress response like that. Yes, you can rewire your brain. Yes, that's possible. So just know once you get all your stressors down, you can start to notice them and do something about it. That's step one, in my opinion. No, step one is knowing what your signals of stress are. And step two is understanding what your stressors are. Then we shift out of this baseline of fight or flight. And we can do this in many ways. But if you have a chronically activated system, you'll probably need some sort of support. So that could be a therapist, that could be a somatic experience practitioner, that could be a trauma sensitive yoga instructor, that could be a coach, that could be many different things, but you want to work intensively with your body for a certain chunk of time. And this is different for every person. It could be just for 2 weeks. It could be for a weekend retreat where you shift out of, a state of fight or flight. But you want to move the body out of this activated state and into more of a replenished state. And yeah, and this could even be like a month. Like it just depends how activated your system is. So you want to show up for your body in this time. This is not just about talking. So if you work with a therapist, make sure they're very body-based and set yourself up with some practices that can help you to relax. My go-to is yoga. I love yoga. I think if you go to the right class, you have the right instructor, you have the right intentions when going into your practice, most yoga classes will shift you out of a state of fight or flight and into rest and digest. And you can do it in 15, 20 minutes. I love yoga for this. I think movement can be really amazing. I think if you exercise, make sure that you add that layer of rest afterwards. So you lay down and you do a body scan meditation or you do some sort of nervous system meditation. I'm actually going to link, I have a nervous system massage that's available to the public. It's on Insight Timer, it's on Bandcamp. So I'm going to link that below as well. For those of you who love exercising, go cycle, go run outside, but come back home and do this. Shift the body into a state of rest because many times high achievers specifically, they love their exercise, they love going hard, and that is good because it discharges all your excess energy, but then you really have to take the time to just rest because you're just going, 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 and you never have that pause time, that recovery time. But you want to do this regularly is my point. So like by intensive, think of it as a stay at home retreat where you commit daily to some sort of practice to shift yourself out of fight or flight. And in the beginning, it might be longer. You might need to do it 30 minutes to an hour every day. You might need accountability from a coach to do it. So just know it varies from person to person. There's no set protocol. And again, this is where I work with individuals on and I help them fit into their schedule and all of these things. So if that's something you're looking for, I'd love to talk with you and see if it's, there's resonance between us and if we could work together. And then next, you want to stay there. You want to not stay in like rest and digest 24/7. That's not what we're going for. But you don't want to be in a chronic state of activation. You want to, like, if you're always up here, and then we find ways for you to lower down below the baseline several times for a period, a chunk of time, then you want to be able to like close this gap a bit and then kind of exist in this middle ground where you're still, of course, you're going to get activated, you're going to get stressed, but you know how to come down before you get too high. And to do that, I work with clients to create what I call a preventative plan. And this is something where you pick some sort of embodiment practice. Again, I really love yoga, movement. You could do Qigong, Tai Chi, something to bring the body into it, not just the mind, not just meditation, but the full body. The nervous system lives in the whole body. And you commit to it 3 times a week, at least 3 times a week. So for me, I know that if I commit to my yoga practice at least 3 times a week, I will be at a pretty solid baseline of ease. Not that I won't have flare-ups, not that I won't have delicious periods of rest, but in general, I won't spin out into a state of activation and not be able to get out of it. So this is called the preventative plan. And like I said, it could be anything. You could be really creative about this. Maybe it's taking a bath, like a long bath once a week. Maybe it's going to, some sort of dance class, Zumba or something, and then resting afterwards, doing your meditation afterwards. Maybe it's doing yoga nidra before bed. What helps you to just stay at a baseline? And this comes with just exploring what you like, what you don't like. So there's a trial and error period. Well, you'll probably try some things that don't resonate with you. That's fine. So in the beginning, there's an investment period of like figuring out the things that you like and the things that regulate you and the things that don't, and leaving behind the things that don't. And then you create an SOS plan. And this is when you are triggered in the heat of the moment. Like, what do you do? So you're in the argument, or you're about to step onto the stage to give your presentation, or someone just said something to you and you're about to like black out and say something that you regret. And that literally happens, by the way. The frontal lobe of the brain shuts off, and this is the frontal lobe of the brain is the area that causes us to discern our actions. Like, I'm not going to say this now because I'm going to regret it later. So when we're triggered, the limbic system and the lower part of the brain is on high alert. So the frontal lobe goes black, like it just doesn't, it's not active. So what are some things that we can do to intercept before we do something that we regret? And I think we can all probably think of different situations or circumstances where we were in that state and we're like, what did I just do? What did I just say? Well, it's because your body was trying to protect you. But if we have a plan of action in that moment, and if we can identify what's going on, like, well, okay, my heart's starting to race. I can feel myself shaking. I can feel butterflies in my stomach. I'm going to do this quickly. And this is body-based. So some examples are, I love doing a forward fold. You literally stand with your feet hips width distance. You fold over your legs. You grab opposite elbows. Your knees are really bent, and you let your head be really heavy. You shake your head out. You let your spine decompress. You take deep, solid breaths. And this, maybe just 5 deep breaths. And then you roll up and you stand. This shifts the effect of gravity on your upper body. It decompresses your spine. It sends blood to your brain. And it can just be a really good way to reset. Another way might be shaking. So you shake, you go like, let's say you just remove yourself from the situation. You go to a bathroom, if you're a public place bathroom stall, you shake one limb at a time for 30 seconds each. You discharge that excess energy. Or several of my clients like to do deep breaths. So you place your hand on your belly and you breathe into your belly. You feel your hand move and you breathe in and out through your nose. You feel your feet on the ground and become more present. So there's small little things that you can do in the moment that just help you to reset, to recalibrate. Another one too is like I really like just hitting child's pose, but you have to be in a place where you're comfortable with the floor. So you're not going to do that out in public. Um, I like to hit child's pose, put a blanket over me, and just be in the dark for a second. Child's pose is a very nourishing pose to the nervous system. This is your SOS plan. It's your plan of action when you're stressed in the heat of the moment. Now, if your baseline is shifted to more of an even keel state, it's going to be easier to intercept when you're extremely activated. But if your baseline is higher, it is going to be harder to lower your activation, if that makes sense. So I do want to name too that sometimes we are in a chronic state of activation because there's some low level or high level trauma that is present in the system. And this can be really, really a helpful time to work with outside professional support. I think we can do a lot on our own, but I don't think we can do everything on our own. I think some things we really need to have another safe nervous system around us to shift that baseline. There's also a thing called co-regulating, whereas you are around someone else, and because we're designed to sense each other, like as humans, as creatures, to sense each other's safety, your system can take cues off of that nervous system that things are safe. If that person is regulated and knows how to maintain their regulation, even if you are not regulated. So that's why I say another safe nervous system. This could be a friend, this could be community. Community is a really big thing. So I do want to name that too. Like there's so much you can do on your own, and I love that. But we aren't meant to do it all on our own. It can be really, really helpful to have other individuals around us. So I'm going to give a recap. If you have questions, type them in the chat, because after the recap, we'll be done. So stress, the presence of stress, creates a state of activation in the body. It creates hypervigilance. It creates strength. It gives us superhuman powers to meet challenges and threats and to persevere. All very masculine qualities. And that creates a masculine embodiment within our systems. So we become more masculine in our presence, in our tone, in the way that we move if we are chronically stressed. You can be a queen about it and shift that state of being in these ways. First, figure out what all your stressors are. Create some sort of consciousness around them. Know what your signs of stress are. When your body is stressed, recognize it as stress. Say, okay, hello, stress. I see you here. You're here to help me. And I'm grateful for that. But I'm safe now in this moment. And then work accordingly with your SOS plan. Once you put your stressors all out on a page, start to eliminate the ones that you don't need anymore and shift your consciousness and awareness around the things that you don't want to eliminate, that you would prefer to stay in your life. Then work in some sort of intensive immersion to shift your chronically stressed out system into a state of more ease, lower the baseline. Might take a period of several weeks, but do an intensive. Then stay there. Create a system for yourself called the preventative plan, where you are giving your body the recovery and the rest that you need on a regular basis. It's not going to be as intense as the immersion, but it's going to be more of this maintenance plan. And it feels good. I mean, it feels good to rest, right? So this is a treat to yourself and it's a treat to everyone around you. Then create your SOS plan. So what am I going to do in the heat of the moment when I'm activated? How am I going to maintain consciousness, maintain composure to be a queen? And know that at some point in your life, if you have experienced high levels of trauma, It's some period, especially in your childhood, that you will need to work with a professional to shift that trauma and someone who is body-based. How to deal with the stress, uncertainty of early talking stages when you don't know if you're dating. Wait, let me reread this again. How to deal with the stress, uncertainty of early talking stages when you don't know the person, is it, that you're dating and friends? I want to know if I'm saying that right. So what I'm getting from that question is the early talking stages, you're kind of anxious about the social part of that, and it's stressful to show up. If I'm right, let me know. Or if you mean something different, let me know. But I'll start talking about maybe the social anxiety or the feeling of stepping into a conversation you're not sure how it's going to go. So before, like if you know that's something that stresses you out, oh, you said when you don't know if you will date or stay friends. I get it. Okay, so you're with somebody and you're like, this could go either way. That could go, you could start dating them or you might be friends, and there's an uncertainty in that. Okay. So system-wise, do your best to regulate your nervous system because projecting into the future is a very activated state of being. It's that planning, it's that strategizing, it's forward thinking, it's linear time. So when you come back into feminine presence, when you deepen your breath, when you place your energy in your heart, when you let your shoulders fall out of your ears and feel your seat and your feet on the ground, now you're in front of that person and you are present. Don't think about the future with them. Be present with what they're saying now and be intrigued and curious about them. Feminine energy it's in the present moment. It's timeless. So become timeless. And ways that you can do this with your system. I know this is easier said than done, but just know that when your mind is spinning about the future, that you're in a state of activation. So you come back into the present moment. That's the antidote. So before you hang out with them, do something to soothe your system. This would be maybe taking a long bath, doing a yoga flow so that you're calming your body. When you're hanging out with them and you're spending time with them, then maybe you can just place your hand gently on your belly. If you're sitting and they can't see it, there's a table, you breathe into your belly, you consciously soften your jaw. So you're keeping the body out of a state of activation. When you're on your own and you're thinking about it and you're not being present with your environment, you maybe hit child's pose on the floor. You take deep breaths. You could pray for help to help you to be more present. You could do something that brings you great joy and shifting out of the head into the body. So what brings the body great joy? You could go on a walk in nature. You could take yourself out on a date. You could take yourself out to coffee, looking at the surroundings, going to an art gallery. So you just want to shift your attention out of that spinning thought, that strategizing mode, that heady space, and come back into your sensual, beautiful body, your timeless state. Because some of this is mindset too. At the end of the day, if you're going to date, you date. If you're going to stay friends, you stay friends. And there's someone else out there for you. And knowing that in the core of your being is really going to help you to show up in a surrendered way, which is very feminine. I hope that helps. Let me know. I want to mention too that I have a series, a yin yoga series available for purchase. And it's such a good time of year to do this. It's 7 classes and you go through the whole body. So like class 1, for example, is all about the legs. Class 2 is about the hips. Class 3 is about the belly, heart, so just it sweeps through the body. And it's this idea that we can build and deepen our connection with the body and slow down. In yin yoga, it's an extremely feminine practice. Yin is feminine energy. So it's the practice of feminine energy. And it's really helpful for slowing down. Oh, great. Wonderful. Thanks. You're so welcome. Thank you for asking that question. Okay, so if there's nothing else, I think I'm going to let you all go. I hope this was helpful for you. If you are someone who is really stressed out and doesn't know how to shift it, hopefully I can be a resource for you. You can check out my course, Level 1 Soften of Nervous System of a Goddess. That's a do-it-yourself course. I also offer live calls on occasion through that course dashboard. You can also reach out to me for coaching. You could do a 3-session exploratory coaching package. All that will be linked in the show notes. I am so grateful for all of you. I love coming live and connecting with you, and I will see you in the next one.